What would you sacrifice for love? Your voice, your home, your very life itself? Deep beneath the waves, where sunlight fades to darkness, a young mermaid is about to make a choice that will change her life forever. This is not a story of happy endings. This is the true tale of the Little Mermaid. Far below the ocean's surface lies a kingdom more beautiful than any on land. Here, the Sea King ruled with his 6 mermaid daughters. The youngest was different from her sisters, quieter, more thoughtful, with eyes that seemed to hold the deepest waters of the sea. While her sisters collected treasures from the sunken ships, the little mermaid cared only for one thing, a marble statue of a handsome young prince that had fallen from the world above. She would spend hours staring up at the surface, dreaming of the human world she could never enter. Her grandmother told her stories of the world above, of cities and forests, of humans who walked on strange limbs called legs. When you turn 15, her grandmother said, you may rise to the surface and see for yourself. The little mermaid counted the days, for she longed to see the human world more than anything. At last her 15th birthday arrived. With her grandmother's blessing, she rose through the waters for the first time. As her head broke the surface, she gasped. For nothing her grandmother had described could match the beauty of the sunset painting the sky in the colors she had never seen. Near the shore floated a magnificent ship, ablaze with lights and music. It was a celebration, a birthday, she learned, for a prince. She swam closer, watching through the portholes, and then she saw him. The young man from her statue stood there, alive and laughing. Her heart, which had never beaten for anyone, began to race. Suddenly the sky darkened, thunder crashed and waves rose like mountains. The ship splintered and broke apart. Sailors cried out as they were thrown into the churning sea. The little mermaid searched frantically through the wreckage. Where was the prince? She found him sinking beneath the waves, unconscious. Though merfolk are forbidden to interfere with humans, she couldn't let him die. She held his head above water through the long night, swimming towards the shore. As dawn broke, she laid him gently on the beach near a white temple. As footsteps approached, the little mermaid hid among the rocks. A girl from the temple found the prince and called for help. As he opened his eyes, he smiled at his rescuer, never knowing that the one who truly saved him washed from the sea, her heart breaking. The little mermaid returned home, but she could not forget. Day after day, she rose to the surface, watching the prince's palace from afar. Her sisters noticed her sadness. "What troubles you?" they asked. But how could she explain this aching longing for a world and a love she could never have? Finally, she went to her grandmother. "Can mermaids ever become human?" she asked. The old woman's face grew grave. "Only if a human loved you so much they pledged their soul to yours. But child, we live 300 years, while humans barely live a fraction of that. Why would you trade your long life for their brief existence?" "But grandmother," said the little mermaid, "humans have something we do not, an immortal soul that lives forever. When we die, we become foam upon the sea and cease to exist. I would trade all my years for one day with the soul and a chance at eternal life." Her grandmother shook her head sadly, for she knew her granddaughter had already made her choice. The little mermaid swam beyond the kingdom's boundaries to a place of darkness where no mermaid dared go, the lair of the sea witch. Polyps that were once merfolk reached out with grasping fingers as she passed. The witch herself was hideous, adorned with the bones of those who had failed her bargains. "So, you wish to have legs?" cackled the witch. "I can give you what you desire, but know this, every step you feel like walking on knives. And you must make the prince love you and marry you, or the morning after he weds another, you will die and become foam upon the sea." The little mermaid trembled but nodded. "And my price," the witch continued, "is your voice. Your beautiful voice must be mine." With the potion in hand, the little mermaid swam to the shore. She drank the burning liquid and felt as if the sword split her in two. She fainted from the agony. When she awoke in the morning light, her tail was gone. In its place were two slender human legs. But she could no longer speak. Her voice was gone forever. The prince was walking along the beach when he found her. "Who are you?" he asked, but she could not answer. When she tried to stand, pain shot through her feet like knives, just as the witch had warned. The prince caught her as she stumbled. "You must come to the palace," he said kindly. "We will care for you." At the palace, they dressed her in silk and velvet. Despite the constant pain, she danced for the prince more gracefully than anyone had ever seen, each movement bought with silent agony. The prince grew fond of her, calling her his little fondling, but he did not love her as she loved him. His heart belonged to another, the girl he believed had saved him from the sea. One evening the prince spoke to her of his heart's desire. "I must marry for my kingdom's sake," he said, "but I will always remember the girl who found me on the beach after the shipwreck, the temple maiden who saved my life. If I could not have her, I would choose you, my silent friend." The little mermaid wanted to cry out, "It was I who saved you," but she had no voice, and so she smiled and nodded, her heart shattering. A neighboring princess arrived for the prince to meet. As she descended from the ship, the prince gasped. "It is you," he cried, "the temple maiden who saved me." But the princess had never seen him before. She had merely been educated at the temple. Still, in his mistaken joy, the prince believed fate had brought them together. Within days, their wedding was announced. The wedding was held on a magnificent ship. Music played, banners waved, the prince and his bride stood together in happiness. The little mermaid stood beside them in her bridesmaid dress, her heart dying within her. That night she would turn to foam upon the sea. All her sacrifice, her voice, her home, her family, her 300 years, all for nothing. As night fell and the ship grew quiet, the little mermaid stood at the rail waiting for dawn and her death. Suddenly her sisters rose from the waves, but something was wrong. Their beautiful hair was gone, cut short. "We gave our hair to the sea witch," they cried. "She has given us a knife. If you plunge it into the prince's heart before sunrise, his blood will give you back your tail. You can return home and live your 300 years. Hurry, dawn approaches." The little mermaid crept to the prince's cabin. He slept peacefully beside his bride, murmuring her name in his dreams. The little mermaid raised the knife. One quick strike and she could live. But as she looked at his sleeping face, she knew she could not do it. She had loved him truly, and true love does not kill. She kissed his forehead once, then threw the knife into the sea. As the first rays of sun touched the horizon, the little mermaid felt herself dissolving into foam. But she did not cease to exist. Instead, she felt herself rising up through the air, lighter than sea foam. Around her were other ethereal beings, daughters of the air. "Who are you?" she asked, finding she had a voice once more. "We are the daughters of the air," they answered. "Like you, we have no immortal soul. But through good deeds, we can earn 1/300 years. You sacrificed everything for love and chose mercy over your own life. Now you will have the chance to earn what you desired most, an immortal soul." And so the little mermaid began her journey. Not the journey she had imagined, but perhaps the one she was meant for. She had learned that love is not about possession, but sacrifice. That true nobility lies not in getting what we want, but choosing what is right, even when it costs everything. Sometimes the greatest love is the one that lets go. Sometimes the soul we seek is earned not through others' devotion, but through our own choices. And sometimes the ending we receive is not the one we dreamed of, but it is one that transforms us into something greater than we were before. This is the true tale of Little Mermaid, not a story of happy endings, but of sacrifice, choice, and a long journey towards becoming who we are meant to be. The end.